I'm Scott.
I'm TJ.
And this is a review. On today's episode, we'll be reviewing Wakanda Forever, Black Panther.
Two.
Yes, that's it. It's the second Black Panther movie. It's starring Letitia Wright, Angela Bassett, The Colonizer, a bunch of other people are in the movie.
Winston Duke.
Lupita Nyong'o. It's got a great cast.
Great cast.
Denai Guerrera from The Walking Dead, obviously. Yeah, a lot of great actors in this. So it's the new Marvel movie. Well, yay, here we are again doing the comic book things. What do we think, TJ? Are we giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down right off the bat?
Not only am I going a thumbs up, but I'm going to put another one up right by it, Scott.
Two thumbs?
Two thumbs way up.
Whoa.
I know.
Possibly
out of frame.
Two thumbs way up. Well, I'm giving this kind of a half a thumb up. My thumb's not all the way up, as you can see. It's not in a meh position quite yet, but it's up a little bit. It's a little like a leaning thumb of Pisa here. We're going to tell you why. We're going to argue about why we thought this was two thumbs up or leaning thumb up or whatever the thumb is. But you got to like and subscribe first, of course. That's always item number one. And then you're going to have to beware the spoiler skull, which is now incoming. Spoiler skull. Or is it coming from this week? Is it coming? Oh! If you haven't seen Black Panther Wakanda Forever yet, beware, because there's a
lot happens, and you know,
it's like any Marvel movie with spoilers. I don't think this one has anything that's going to ruin the movie if you find it out, to be honest with you.
I disagree.
Oh, let's get right into it.
Let's spoil some spoilers.
What do you think will ruin the movie right away if you found out?
Second death. Death of Angela Bassett's character.
Okay.
The Queen.
I wasn't like super shocked by that.
The movie opens on the loss of the king, you know?
Yeah.
And so to also lose your queen halfway through, I mean, you're really going through an arc.
There's a lot of loss.
Taking Shuri down in this movie. And I do think that, like, if I knew she had died beforehand.
So it is interesting because with this movie, we know Shuri a bit from the first movie. That's really all she's in. She's in the other, in Infinity War or whatever.
She got a pretty big part in Infinity War.
You're right.
I mean, she might not be in a long duration of the film, but she has a major role when it comes to the last Infinity
Sure.
Story.
What I was going to say, though, is just going from her in more of a supporting role to all of a sudden being thrust into the spotlight. It both serves the character well, and it's like works for the movie's favor to really kind of just being laid on this poor girl, and it's like she was just kind of off to the side doing her thing. She was in an important role, but like now it's like the whole weight of this kingdom is on her, and it is a lot. It's a lot. And right away you feel the weight of Chadwick Boseman's death. I think the beginning of this movie really effective.
I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that I think the movie had against it the most going into it was everyone knows the off-screen tragic death, and so how are you going to address it in the franchise? And honestly, beautifully done.
I mean, I was not expecting him to be like coding in the beginning of the movie, like he's literally dying. I'm like, whoa!
Yeah, I mean, you feel it.
I thought it was
how they do it.
I thought it was gonna just start with the funeral and just go from there. Which the funeral is great. It's very effective.
But I think that's the expectation. So already to subvert my expectations right away in the cold open of the film, I'm like, okay. It had me on board right away. They won me as an audience member.
Yeah, and
very
then
effectively.
And then to go right into the like Marvel logo with complete silence and all the clips from Chadwick Boseman. I mean,
you could hear people wheezing.
Yeah, there was completely silent in the theater, which is rare. One person was like crunching on popcorn or like taking a second. So yeah, it was really the beginning of this movie. I think is very effective, and then it jumps to 1 year later, and I think that there's some effective things in the beginning, but I do think that this is where the movie kind of slows down for me big time, and it's a movie that takes its time, but they introduce a lot of stuff in a very quick amount of time, and it felt a little clumsy to me.
So they have a lot of characters.
Yes.
And here's the thing. I rewatched the original Black Panther the night before.
Okay.
And walking out of that movie again, I was like, okay, the supporting cast. Like, everyone is great in it, but they have probably the most supporting cast even in that first movie.
Absolutely.
And in this movie, with Shuri leveling up as well, so does everyone else. And so you have a lot of characters, and then you add more. And
yes,
it's just a lot to balance. Well, so I get that, if that's like a complaint of yours.
I think the big problem with this movie is the big threat that Wakanda is facing in this is Namor, the Submariner, right? The winged serpent god, as they call him in the movie. And it's drawing from Mayan mythology, which is I thought, a great take on. I don't know a lot about this character, but I thought that was an interesting take. But they tried to shoehorn a lot of backstory for how these people came to be living underwater, and I almost need a whole movie just about that.
I wouldn't have minded a whole movie about that, but it was enough for me to understand it, and I feel like
they give you the bare minimum to you don't need. First of all, I don't even think you even need to explain it. You could just have underwater people at this point in the Marvel universe, and it'd be fine. Like, we have aliens and all this other shit. It's like, okay, they just are. They're the Na'vi underwater. They're just the Avatar race that have come up to invade Wakanda for their vibranium or whatever. But
that trailer felt very targeted once the movie started.
It was very like, wait a minute, and then like the same like crawling up the side of the ship kind of scene, and like
them touching the whale underwater.
Yeah.
This is our home.
I need you with me.
Well, my big complaint with this is they needed to just dial the brightness up a little bit, because for some reason, half this movie is at night, and it's always in dark caves and always these dim light, and you can't see anybody's face, and it's fine. I knew it was going on, but it really, especially when they go to Kodokan, is that what the underwater kingdom is called? What? It is right here. They're correct. Under Atlantis. And Mayan Atlantis, and they were like, oh, look how beautiful it was, and I was like, I can't see anything, and it's like too realistic how dark the ocean is, and it's like all lit by like glowworms, and on a technical level it is beautiful, and it's an incredible looking city, but like there's just something, it's too dark.
I cannot wait for everyone to see Talokan. I'm excited about how we're gonna see the world come alive.
In this movie, Wakanda feels very big. There's a lot more scope to it. That being said, it is still always just in the same location, it feels like. It feels like we got a few more spots, but
we mostly visited those places.
Yeah, it's a little limited.
I mean, I kind of like that, because I feel like this is the story of a leader. And so, like, I don't mind seeing the same couple places over and over again, because it's kind of like each place has their own point in the story. You know, the first time we're in that location that gets flooded and attacked later, we're celebrating the funeral, and they're walking the casket down, and everyone's celebrating, and it's a big lively
like the main
place.
street.
Yeah, and then the second time you see it, it's being flooded and attacked, and everything you loved about it the first time is now turned against you.
I more mean like I wanted more of that, and it was too much of Shuri's lab.
Sure.
It was like, we've seen that was like so much of Black Panther and so much of Infinity War. When you're in Wakanda, is always in this lab, and
I
it's
think
just
that's
like
a big part of her character, though.
It is.
And when you have the movie focusing on her, and like what I really loved about this movie and her story was right off the bat, this started off with her going like, please, if you can just save my brother's life, like I'll never question you again. And she's praying, and then her brother dies. And the whole rest of the movie, she's having this real like
crisis
loss of faith, and like then to fight it with the science and knowledge and what she knows and can understand. It's a great balance for the film, and so I think you have to be in the lab a lot for her.
I think the best part of this movie is Shuri and her journey and her arc. I think that's the best part of this film is she has a very strong character arc throughout this film.
Probably one of the best character arcs in
a Marvel movie, I would say, in general.
Yeah.
That so far, like, other than like, you're right, in Phase 4.
Definitely
I don't want to go
Phase
too
4.
far, because like Tony Stark's arc over the course of the first 10 years of this is incredible. But
sure, yeah.
Given how little time she's had so far,
absolutely
incredible.
I mean, being a big part of 3 movies essentially.
It's an incredible character arc for a single movie. Let's say that. That's one of the best. And unfortunately, though, it's not balanced as well with with Namor's journey, which they want Namor to be a sympathetic character, and I do get where he's coming from, but they don't show... His whole deal is the Earth... everyone on Earth is looking for vibranium because Wakanda won't share because they're afraid that everyone on Earth will make weapons, which...
You know, Earth stuff.
They'll do that. And they're drilling in the ocean for vibranium, and they find the Mayan Atlantis underwater, right? And so that's why Namor wants to team up with the Wakandans to basically wage war on the surface. But they don't give them any moment where, like, the Americans or whatever are, like, actually doing anything to the...
Right. I mean, they attack the warship, so, you know, they attack the Americans first. I get it, though. It all happened in the past. This character's been alive for hundreds and hundreds of years.
For a long time. I mean, he was alive during the Spanish Inquisition, and, like, that's kind of his inciting incident.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
So it reminded me of Magneto, where he has just this vendetta against non-mutants, and he is a mutant. He does say, look at the camera, and I am a mutant at one point in the movie, just to remind you that the X-Men are coming eventually.
I like it. I mean, I feel it necessary for Marvel to tease every X-Men project ever in these more recent things.
Well, I mean, look, it's. I think it's good to mention it, and it does have that similarity, but he needed to have more, like, okay, that was in the 1500s, and now this is
superhero society, you know.
Stuff has changed. It just felt a little odd. Another thing that felt odd to me, let's talk another big spoiler here, which is a cameo that everyone was hoping for, except for me. I was not hoping for this cameo, and I found it to be wholly unnecessary and fan service more than necessary for the movie.
I disagree completely, but go ahead and say it first.
Michael B. Jordan.
Killmonger's back,
Killmonger
baby.
has returned. I get it, but it felt like they wanted him because the fans demanded it more than anything.
I mean, sure, that's a fair point, and don't get me wrong, when it turned around, I was like, yep, figured he'd be here some way, shape, or form. Whether it's a multiverse version and he's a different version of the character or whatnot, I knew Michael B. Jordan was going to be back. But
I didn't need it.
Here's the thing. You always see an ancestor who's passed on in this ceremony. They established that in the first movie.
Yep.
She could have seen her brother or her mother, but she's having a disconnect from the spiritual realm and from her ancestors right now. So it made perfect sense for her to see Killmonger, who's the only ancestor that's, like, truly been about violence and like taking that kind of swift action that she's considering taking with Namor.
It is our tradition.
When I tell you to do something, I mean that shit. Burn it all!
It kind of drags in misery for a while. The movie is very miserable for the second middle of the movie. And then it kind of has your traditional superhero finale with the big action stuff. I kind of like the finale in this one. I thought it was a pretty interesting set piece.
It was nice because it was a set piece. It wasn't some, like, the sky's falling down on this town and we have to do this and do that. They were just in the middle of the ocean having a big old brawl and then one-on-one on the shore.
Well executed. There was a lot of interesting ideas there. Something we haven't talked about at all in this review is the big new introduction to a character, Ironheart. Riri Williams. Riri Williams.
There it is.
I don't know the actor's name who's playing her, but they kind of introduce her as like she's almost like the MacGuffin in this movie. She's kind of the inciting incident for what.
Yeah.
She created a tracking device for vibranium that I guess was stolen by the government, or she sold it to the government.
Her
It's
professor
unclear.
pretty much dared her. She couldn't make it.
Right.
And then she made it, and the professor was like, pass
Sure.
on. That's what I got. Could be wrong.
Yeah, they so Namor wants to kill her, and that's really his major goal throughout this movie. It's
She's
of a
the threat.
flimsy-
She's the threat to Myantis or whatever it's called.
Myantis.
And so you need to get rid of her so you can't find the city underwater.
Sure, because nobody else will ever come up with a scanning device for vibranium. It's
Right.
only her that can create that.
It's like I imagined at one point a janitor in Wakanda like kicked open a closet and they just spill out. Like they have to have these things in Wakanda already.
I don't mind this character. I don't have any gripes with her. I just feel like they kind of threw her in and didn't give her anything to do, and she's very underdeveloped, and she just kind of disappears for half the movie and then shows up again.
So on that exact note, here's my TJ pitch of the episode.
Yeah.
Why not, when Shuri's exploring the city, she break out and explore and get some tech and help her with the tech later on that helps make the synthetic heart flower thing.
They could
You know, like it could have gave her own adventure within that and then had them meet back up and escape together.
I think
she lacked agency.
I think a fix for this movie, from my perspective, is her and Namor are both kind of underdeveloped, but they're both kind of characters that are together because they're plot-wise. So it's like it would have made more sense to maybe, but it's because you have to start with the funeral. You can't do this, but to start with her making the scanner and then have it be like Namor coming after her and then have some conflict going on already that Wakanda gets involved with, instead of Namor just showing up in Wakanda and he's like, hey, this is what's going to happen now. Bye. And it's like very sudden, and that's I think an issue I have with this movie is a lot of things happen very unceremoniously and just like, hey, it's just here it is. Here's Namor. He just came out. It's kind of creepy and effective in that way, but then it's just like, I don't know, like he's the leader of a whole underwater kingdom. Like he could have like come in with an army, and I don't know. It just.
I like the one-on-one nature. He tried to give them an element of chance at peace, so to say. But here's kind of the problem with what you're saying in terms of effectiveness. This movie in a post-Infinity War and Endgame world doesn't work as well because Black Panther happened before those movies, and that's when he opened it up to the vibranium and the resources. So it feels weird for this movie's like inciting incident to really be drawn from a movie that happened pre-Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah,
it just put a lot of time in between the two films in real life.
But the idea that Namor is pissed at Wakanda for letting out the secret about vibranium,
right?
That's a good jumping off point that I think this movie could have done more with than they did. And I think they could have had that be more of a bigger conflict instead of him just being like that's my issue with the one-on-one nature of him showing up and being like, here's the problem. Okay, I'm piecing out. And it was like, we don't even know who the fuck you are. You're just showing up and then like lighting out all this plot exposition and then leaving
with your winged
feet. And we have to cut to him.
Wait, speaking of the contrast being a little poor at times in the film, when you first saw that silhouette, I actually thought his wings on his feet were like for trout that were just out of water flopping around and biting on his feet, but they were flopping so fast that he like flew.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is happening here?
The winged feet, I went back and forth on. They were a little strange visually.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free.
I mean, look, we're just getting into this. We're getting into this space with these movies where just some of the stuff just looks weird. Like all the underwater people were always like doing this, and they're like kind of holding their breath, and I'm like, yeah, you're not breathing underwater at all. Like only Namor looked like he really could survive underwater. The rest of them were like,
all the other, every single extra underwater is.
Yes.
Big cheeks.
Yeah, and they're just like doing this.
No, you absorb water. Yeah, they all kamehameha.
Their society seems miserable. Like they're all like, look how happy we are, but it's pitch dark down there, and there's like everything's floating away. It's like there's too much real gravity where it's like it doesn't mesh, and it's like
also,
too weird.
Also, he made a sun that sustains underwater. They just drop that on you for some reason.
Yeah.
That he's created what Doc Ock wants in the second Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
And just made like an artificial sun for them, and it just really has no reasoning or any comeback.
It's
or
the power of
later.
the sun in the palm of my Atlantis. Yeah,
my Atlantis.
The power of the sun
in the palm of my hand.
My Antis. Yeah, it's just like we were saying before. There's just a lot of stuff kind of jammed in here, and it's hard to kind of sit with anything and really. I mean, like that's why Letitia Wright's story, Shuri, is the only like real solid grounding in this. Otherwise, it's a lot of like and this and this and this.
We know what you whisper.
On that note, I think we're ready for final thoughts. So, TJ, give us some final thoughts.
Look, earlier in the episode, I said 2 thumbs way up, and I'm not taking it back. I think there's a little bit of a slow part, but that's totally fine. Winston Duke's incredible. Every single actor plays their part. I thought he was very funny, and I enjoyed that, you know, he kind of took on like this nice big brother role at times for her because she does need people to rely on. And so I like that, you know, people were stepping up in the cast, and it was nice to see them elevated. The story of Shuri in this is incredible. Love the arc, love the emotional journey. I think they handled the death of a major part of this franchise incredibly well and respectively. For that reason, I'm gonna give it 4.5 Black Panther masks.
Wow. Well, I didn't dislike this movie. I know I've been a little more negative on it. I do think the beginning and the end are really strong. I think there are a lot of really interesting elements in here that they've introduced. I just don't think that it's all gelling super cohesively. I do love Letitia Wright's performance as Shuri. I think her character arc throughout this is phenomenal. I really liked everything that happened with her. I think the last set piece was really great and interesting. I actually really liked Namor. I thought he was an interesting character. Mm-hmm. I don't think he was handled as well as I would have liked, but I would like to see what they're going to do with him moving forward. Yeah. I do believe he's going to play a big role in this universe in the future, I hope. Mm-hmm. I just wish that they had balance the plates a little better. I think the first Black Panther has a lot more going for it, obviously, but I think with the death of Chadwick Boseman, I think they probably really screwed up whatever they were going for direction-wise, and they had to pivot, and I think that all being said, I think they did a pretty darn good job. I'd give Black Panther Wakanda Forever 3.5, 3.5 I always do this. 3.5 carrots out of 5. Because Winston Duke eats carrots. Yes. So there you have it.
Really quick, on your part of them trying to balance everything, you can't blame them. It's hard to put everything into a 3-hour film.
Is that a joke?
Absolutely. Was I too earnest?
Yeah, you were. I was like, yeah, you could, what? What are you talking about? So there you have it. This is Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Like and subscribe, leave a comment below, and be cool like this guy. We'll put a comment from that dude who said we're one of the best channels under 100K.
Be cool like that guy.
Be cool like that guy.
Thank you, that guy. And hey, if you've been commenting or sending us messages, thank you. We'll always try to respond. If we don't get a chance, we're sorry. We're very busy, but we are trying to make you content. And if you have suggestions, always leave those suggestions in the comments. We'll always try to keep those into consideration. And if we are not reviewing it this week, hey, it might be next week. It might be the week after. It might be next year. I don't know. I didn't say that. So like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
No threats this week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Look, these movies get one white man, and that's Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman?
Damn it.